Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast, and this is my review of Skiptrace, a Hong Kong Chinese-American co-production from 2016 that stars Jackie Chan and Johnny Knoxville. Now this movie was a big hit in China, made a ton of money there. It stars Jackie Chan, of course, and it's already widely available for viewing, so there may be a number of people out there that are thinking to themselves, is this movie worth my time? So I figured I would do a review of it. So the incredibly thin plot of Skiptrace goes something like this. A Hong Kong detective, played by Chan, tries to find a conman, played by Knoxville, who can testify against a criminal who committed murder. That's basically it. So one thing you need to know about Skiptrace right off the bat is that this movie has a lot of problems. Oh yes, there's actually almost everything in this movie is a problem. Yes. Now a big one that sticks out but is somewhat difficult to explain is the editing and scene transitions, which are awful in this. There's a definitive lack of establishing shots after changes in location, making everything feel very rushed and sloppy. Now let me give you an example of this. Okay, because I have to in order to explain this. I know this is a non-spoiler review, but I need to provide a little bit of detail for you, in order for you to understand where I'm coming from. So after escaping the Russians, okay, Chan and Knoxville travel by train for about 2 minutes of screen time. Then they jump off the train into a desert. Then, in the very next edit, they're in the middle of a forest. Then there's an abrupt flashback, followed by an abrupt fight in Fan Bingbing's apartment. Then in the very next edit, they're in Mongolia, where they buy a new vehicle, it breaks down, and then they take part in a tribal fight and sing-along involving contemporary music that is totally pointless and completely unnecessary. Now, all of that occurs in about 15 minutes of screen time. Now, my point in giving this example is that this is one of those movies that doesn't even bother to set anything up. It doesn't even bother. And nothing lasts long enough for the viewer to appreciate it. So everything begins and ends in like a few minutes. It's just a bunch of random stuff thrown at you. It's almost like a collection of short skits that are thinly connected by an overarching plot. And this makes the film seem entirely incompetent from start to finish. But before we move on here, I'd like to point out that the character and story development is non-existent, the script writing is absolute garbage, and the ending has one of the dumbest twists I've seen in recent memory. But with all that said, that doesn't really matter in a film like this, believe it or not. What matters in an action comedy is the action and the comedy, which makes sense. There are plenty of stupid movies that, I enjoy quite a bit, because they're propped up by their action design or the humor. Can Skiptrace be one of those movies? Well, the jokes are lame, so that's another problem. I don't want to spoil all of the jokes for you or anything, but again, just give you a few very quick examples here. So near the beginning, Knoxville gets caught by Russian bad guys and they dunk his face in a toilet. He lifts his head up and says, "Oh man, why do you eat asparagus?" You know what I mean? Then the Russian guy says, "Well, we need you to talk." And then Johnny Knoxville goes, "Oh man, can't we just talk on Skype?" It's cringeworthy stuff. There are also jokes involving the size of women's breasts, of course, as well as goat testicles, and men get hit in the balls multiple times in this movie, of course, It's pretty bad stuff. It's pretty lame. It's the kind of humor that any 12-year-old kid could have thought of in about 5 minutes. And the entire film uses this kind of humor. There may have been a few scenes that kind of made me grin a little bit, but considering how there's so many jokes thrown at you in this movie, not much of an accomplishment there. So, at this point, we've been backed into a corner, right? We have one possible saving grace of Skiptrace: the action. Alright, this is a Jackie Chan film, of course. So can the action save this incredibly stupid film? Well, there is one decent and somewhat creative scene early on involving a collapsing series of buildings on the water. After that little scene, you're probably thinking to yourself, okay, that wasn't bad. It was a bit creative. They're just getting warmed up, so this could be a fairly entertaining ride. No. That's probably the best action scene in the movie, and that's not really saying much. Direction and camera work are also rather poor throughout, which does not help matters. Actually, when I thought about this movie, you could barely consider this an action film. When you really think about it, 80% of the time, our protagonists are traveling in the wilderness. You know what I mean? I don't know. Would you consider the act of falling off a ledge into a river and then trying not to drown an action scene? I guess. What about a sinking ship with the protagonist having to swim underwater and open a jammed door? I guess you can consider that an action scene. If that's the kind of action that you're expecting in this movie, I guess you're going to get what you want, because that's what you're going to get. I mean, sure, there are some actual fist fights that are peppered in here and there, but that style of action is completely drowned out by all of the road trip dangers, that you're going to come across. And this lack of any real identifiable martial arts action or traditional action really kind of hurts the pacing of the film later on. The second half I thought was outright tedious because I was expecting more fights against, the bad guys in the movie, and you don't get very much of that. Now, I don't want to be mean or anything, but at this point in his career, Jackie Chan is so far over the hill that it is kind of embarrassing watching his attempts at athleticism. He even tries the same shtick from 30 years ago, and because of this, he comes off as a has-been in this movie. The fighting in this basically consists of Chan performing like a really slow, weak movement, followed by a stuntman rolling over a crate or like falling through a prop. You know what I mean? I know this guy is 60 years old, but that's exactly the reason why he should not be acting in martial arts action movies anymore. You know what I mean? This isn't a new development either, because his films have been generally underwhelming for about a decade now. You know what? Let's go through his filmography real quick over the last decade in reverse chronological order. Okay, just as an exercise here. And I haven't seen every movie he's made during the past 10 years, but I've seen a bunch. So let's see how far back we have to go to get to a solid action film, a very good action film, or just a very good film at all. All right. So he just came out with Kung Fu Yoga. I have not seen that. Railroad Tigers. I have not seen that. Okay. Skiptrace. Did not like it. Dragon Blade. That movie sucked. Police Story Lockdown. Yeah, that movie was not good. Not good. Not a good start here. Chinese Zodiac. All right, that one was okay. That one I thought was watchable. I thought Chinese Zodiac was watchable. 1911 is kind of mediocre, kind of dull, if you ask me. He's got some cameo appearances here, some anime voice acting, can't count those. Little Big Soldier I have not seen, but I heard it was pretty good. So I'll give that one a pass. Some American flicks, some cameos. The Shinjuku incident was pretty good. Again, that's more of a drama, but that's okay. That was pretty good. It was pretty good. Forbidden Kingdom, no. Rush Hour 3 I didn't even watch. Robin Hood was okay. It was decent. It was pretty good. Still haven't hit a solid movie yet. We're back in 2006. Let's see here. New Police Story. There we go. Back in 2004. What is that, 13 years ago? Was his last very entertaining action movie where he's the actor in it. Okay, the main actor. So that's 13 years ago. You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. I mean, I think that I really think that Jackie should move behind the camera. That's the point I'm trying to make here, and stick to directing action movies. His resume as like a martial arts action star is so phenomenal that I don't think anyone will ever match it. I mean, I could call it right now. I mean, what this man did in his prime will never happen again. He churned out entertaining action movies practically every single year for like over 20 years, right from the late 1970s all the way through to like the late 1990s. With a few standouts that came after. I mean, it's practically impossible to do as a martial arts actor because you really need a mentality for reckless abandon in order to consistently punish your body like that. I mean, his dedication and his work ethic are unparalleled. I mean, you got guys like Tony Jaa now. I mean, he struggles to make a movie every 2 years. You know what I mean? Yeah, so I greatly respect this guy. Just want to put that out there. And in all honesty, he kind of does have the right to do whatever he wants at this point. So if he wants to continue to star in crappy action movies that are directed by other people, I guess he's earned that right. But personally, I would rather see him direct action movies, starring younger talent like Wu Jing, who's pushing 40, but that dude can still move. Andy On, Philip Ng, even Jin Zhang. I mean, he should be doing what I would like to see him do with all of his money, which he has a ton of, is put money back into the Hong Kong old school martial arts urban action genre. Just get all these guys together and be like, listen, every year we're coming out with 2 or 3 movies, lower budgets. We're just going to have dudes beating the crap out of bad guys with great martial arts choreography and just a hard-hitting action design. And just churn those movies out. You know what I'm saying? I would love to see that. And Jackie Chan has the ability to do it, but instead he's, he wants to be in front of the camera. I don't know if it's his ego, where he always has to be on screen. Being behind the camera, directing other people just isn't enough for him because he's got to be the man or whatever. I don't know. Maybe he just likes acting in movies. You know what I mean? But I really think it's a huge opportunity cost for the action film industry in Hong Kong. And he could be contributing so much more behind the camera right now. That's just my opinion. But I obviously do not recommend Skiptrace, which is, it's terrible. There is a marginal level of entertainment value. Stuff gets thrown at you, I guess. It's very light entertainment that is very undemanding. If your brain is feeling like Jell-O one night and you feel like watching something where stuff just kind of happens, not much of a compliment, but I have seen worse. I have seen worse. Like I said, there were a few decent action scenes near the beginning, but just go watch one of Jackie's older films instead. And as always, I will see you next time.